Today's discussion is on suburbs and is part of urban sociology. Suburbs are important as it shapes and permeates many aspects of our lives. So here's the key question. What are suburbs? Often when we talk about suburbs, we think of the cookie cutter homes, the well manicured lawns, the white picket fences, and we get the romantic image of the Leave It to Beaver environment, where we see June Cleaver kissing her children goodbye for school, vacuuming the house with her pearl necklace on. As we see in today's American life, living in the suburbs is part of the American dream. And in many ways, the American culture is driven by suburban values. You think about it objectively. How many times do we go to Home Depot, buy ourselves a bag of weed and feed for our lawns? Or we buy ourselves a mower? Or we buy pickets for our fences? How many times do we buy plants to plant in our garden to make sure that it looks more attractive than our neighbors? We see that constantly. How many people move to certain suburban neighborhoods with good schools? Not only are people moving to the suburbs, we also see corporations shifting their operations to suburban neighborhoods. Look at Plano, Texas, for example. We see companies like Toyota, JCPenney, Frito-Lay. In essence, suburbs have become an integral part of American life. Not many people know, however, that suburbs are a relatively new phenomenon in American history. They were established with the invention of electric trams, electric cars, and eventually the automobile. Not to mention the construction of the interstate highways, which further discussion will illustrate. So let me briefly cover the evolution of suburbs. As mentioned in the earlier presentation, suburbs are a relatively new phenomenon in American history. Now, when you see the establishment of American cities like Cleveland, New York, Philadelphia, any of our industrial cities, it was great utility to actually live close to where you work. Most people actually walk to work. They didn't live more than 2 miles away. So walking from point A to point B was very common. Of course, this was very conducive to the lower income working class people. So you think of the 5 boroughs in New York, that's a good example of it. However, with the invention, the trams, electric cars, things were beginning to change. Trams and electric cars allowed people to live further away. It gave them a greater commuting distance. Hence, the wealthy started moving out from the cities. And a good indicator of the early suburbs are the bungalows. Those small houses with a front porch where people sit and watch neighbors go by. Now, this was very common in the 1920s and 30s. If you want to see examples of bungalows, Highland Park, Texas have numerous examples of such bungalows. And you could tell that people, the rich, the affluent, started commuting to from their place of commerce to their homes via the tramcars. Now, the suburbs of today was in essence a historical fluke. And it is logical to conclude that American culture would not be the same if it was not for World War II. President Dwight Eisenhower, who was the supreme commander for the Allied forces during World War II, upon his invasion of Germany, was very impressed by the German Autobahn system. It connected the entire country together. And to Eisenhower, this was an excellent form of civil defense, where you can drive from point A to point B from the country to different states, to different cities without any hindrance. The construction of the interstate highways started during the late 50s and completed during the 1970s. Now that was to radically transform American culture. Things that we take for granted today, we owe to this period. And in many ways, you can see how American culture was shaped by the interstate highways.